Good morning, everybody. Guess we're going to get started. I want to welcome everybody to the Albany Pine Bush Preserve Commission's quarterly board meeting. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Keith Gertz. I'm the Regional Director of DEC's Region 4, and I also serve as the board chair. As is customary, the first thing I like to do is go around the table and introduce the Executive Director of the Albany Pine Bush Preserve Commission as well as the other board members. So, to my right, representing City of Albany is Chris Spencer. To my left is Executive Director Chris Hauber. To his immediate left, representing Albany County, is Mike McLaughlin. Next to Mike, representing the Nature Conservancy, is Tony Wilkinson. Next to Tony, representing the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, is Nancy Stoner. Next to Nancy is Citizen Rep Harvey Alexander. Next to Harvey, representing the town of Colonia, is Mike Lyons. Around the corner is Nancy Pearson, another citizen rep. And next to Nancy, is representing the town of Gilderland, is Don Sapas. And behind Don is the town supervisor for Gilderland, Peter Barber. Okay. First thing we'd like to do is consider the minutes from the last meeting. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next, I'd like to open the floor to the public. If anyone has any comments, anybody from the public would like to speak at this juncture? All right. Moving along to reports. I have nothing to report for this quarter, so I'll go right over to you, Chris.
Okay. Actually, any board members?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. From the board? No? Okay. I'll jump in. Richard Naylor, the president of the Friends of the Albany Pine Bush Community, couldn't be here. He's usually here for every meeting. He just came back from a 3 or 4 week vacation in Europe. I think he's a little jet lagged.
Yeah.
But one thing he asked me to report on is the Friends received a donation, an anonymous donation of $2,500, and it looks like it'll be a recurring one, and that's to help fund fund a St. Rose conservation science intern for the field season. And Audrey Mornay works with us now. She started back at the end of May on the 31st. So Richard wanted me to mention that. Yesterday we had Shelley Bischoff here. Those of you who remember Shelley from Conservation Impact, when we did the vision strategy, the audience development plan, and we adopted and embraced our new way of thinking, being a constituency-centered organization. Shelley was here doing some work for Saratoga Plan over the weekend. So she came here and volunteered 2 hours of her time to lead kind of an unstructured discussion workshop to just have the staff talk about where we are and what we've learned and what's confusing and what's frustrating, but what really works. So I found it valuable, and I think a number of the other staff did. Saturday we have something new talking about our vision strategy and audience development plan, focusing not just on the Discovery Center and the Pine Bush, but doing things off-site. This is focuses on history. Tales of the Taverns will be at the Albany Pump Station. So we'll have 2 history speakers talking about the history of beer. And it's obviously adult-minded because you go there, it's a $20 admission. It includes hors d'oeuvres. You get a free pint glass, a Pine Bush pint glass, and that pint glass is filled once. So if you're interested, there's flyers here.
Chris, how are the advance sales on that?
How are they? We are at almost 31 now. Good.
Our cap is 50.
Cap is 50. I would be thrilled with 30. So we have 31. That's good. I think we'll probably max at 50. Let's see. Just as an update, those of you who are with the technical committee or joined us back in, let me see if I can get this right, April, when the city came in and talked to the board and the technical committee about changes in the restoration plan for the final capped and closed landfill. So they came and spoke to the commission, said that there were some issues and that they would be coming back with a new plan. and they are doing that July 12th. That's a Tuesday at 9:30, and it'll be here. So that's a technical committee meeting, but of course, board members are welcome, and I'll remind all of you that it's coming up. We, the staff, received a 2% parity increase and performance advance step that was authorized by the Division of Budget back in April, and that was part of the approved budget in December, and that was for all management confidential employees across the state, of which the Pine Bush Commission follows that standard. Seed collection, I just want to talk about seed collection. Jesse has been feverishly working with volunteers trying to collect lupin seed because it's a really short window when lupin seed ripens before it pops and sends its seed flying. So we need to collect the pods. As of yesterday, they had collected over 3,000 pounds of lupin seed, which is a lot of lupin seed. And if you think about lupin, if you know what it looks like when it looks like a pod, it looks like a pea pod. So think of 3,000 pounds of pea pods. It's a lot of peas. We did our first prescribed burn last Friday over in Blueberry Hill. We had 22 participants, many of which were volunteers, including state and federal agencies. It was about 13 acres. And I went out and looked at it on Monday, and it looked incredibly well. We exposed a lot of mineral soil, so we're doing things that we need to be doing. And then finally, the management plan, the draft of the management plan just went to the technical committee, and the technical committee is meeting next week. I don't want to go on any longer, but please make sure that you take a look at what's in the update. Specifically, there's a lot of things going on in all the departments: education, communications, outreach, conservation, science, leadership. And just to finally mention, Luke in May looks like about 2,500 people, you can imagine. So we received a lot of good press recently, and you can take a look at that. We received press on a new designation. We are now a heritage area, or heritage site within the Hudson River Valley National Heritage Area. And as part of that, we have a passport cancellation station. So if you go to national parks and heritage sites across the country, you can get your passport stamped. Like, well, you don't have to see it, but it's pretty neat. So when you go there, you get your stamp, and it's almost a hobby. So you also can get stickers from each site. So we just had stickers made. So you all can have a sticker. But it's been pretty popular, so that's it.
Okay, next we're going to hear from the technical committee, and Mike Lyons is going to present today.
Okay. Margie is handing out what I have here, which is a summary of all 11 projects, which 2 are in the city of Albany, 2 are in the town of Gilman, 5 are in the town of Colony, and 2 are intermunicipal. The technical committee met twice, once in May and second time in June, which they had the field trip, which Chris had mentioned, which was very well attended, and Margie had sent out articles that were in the TU. I'll highlight several projects. City of Albany landfill modified permit. As Chris mentioned, in July, the technical committee will meet and focus on the Albany landfill cap design as part of its closure plan. And the town of Gilman, at 145 New Carter Road, the senior living center in full protection area number 3. Has received a rezoning from the town board of Gilman, and we are anticipating a full submission for review and comment by the technical committee. And lastly, within the town of Colony, at 8 Ruby Way, a conservation subdivision and full protection area 52A, the town board granted the rezoning to single-family residential from industrial, and we are anticipating full submittal for review of subdivision by the technical committee. Okay. And that's just a summary of the 11 projects that are before the technical committee at this point in time. Are there any questions, comments? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. You know what, I'm just going to jump in because on the back, the Woodlawn Preserve, I can just quick update you. So Woodlawn, the city of Schenectady is to receive $50,000 out of our appropriation this year from the EPF. So I'm continuing to work with the Friends of the Woodlawn Preserve and the city of Schenectady to get the city to set up a contract, and I'm working with DEC to help that contract get set up so they can actually begin to expend funds and get reimbursed for Woodlawn. And their largest and primary expense for this funding this year is to get a survey done, a comprehensive survey, because it's never been done. So that's just an update on it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, next on the agenda is Lisa Anthony will be providing the financial report.
Good morning. The first report, these reports represent just 1 month of our fiscal year through April 30th, so they're very true to budget. The first report is a statement of financial activities, and under the revenue side, dues and contributions are on budget as of April. Government contracts are on budget for April. Mitigation fees, there are no mitigation fees for April, these come in quarterly. Lease revenue is on budget, and other revenue is slightly higher than budget, and this is just due to an increase in merchandise sales. So total revenue came in at 100% of budget for the month of April. Moving on to expenses, personnel and fringe are on budget. Travel and training, as well as communications, contractual are on budget, and occupancy is slightly under budget, and this is just due to the timing of expenses. Supplies and equipment are slightly under budget as well. So expenses came in at 100% of budget. The revenue came in at 100% of budget, giving us a total net income of $42.75 for the year. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving on to the statement of net assets. Our cash decreased $94,000 due to an increase in operating expenses. Our conservation and land reserves remained the same. Grants receivable increased due to money owed from DEC for March and April. Accounts receivable is for quarterly mitigation, and this has been paid. Inventory remained the same. Prepaid expenses are under last year due to the timing of year-end expenditures that fall into our next fiscal year. Investments increased $23,000 due to positive gains in all three funds this month. Capital assets increased slightly, and this is due to design work for new exhibits. So total assets increased $27,000 over last year due to an increase in grants receivable and investments both. Liabilities, accounts payable and accrued expenses stayed relatively flat. Deferred revenue remained the same, and New York State pension liability remained the same. Total liabilities stayed the same as last year. Under net assets, capital assets invested increased $4,700. This is due to the design work for exhibits. Reserved assets remained unchanged, and unreserved assets increased $22,000, giving us an increase in total net assets of $27,000 due to a positive NOI and a gain in investment income. Any questions on it? And last, our investment summary. We had the reserve fund had a positive performance of 0.17, as well as both the Discovery Center endowment and the endowment had a positive performance of 0.57 and 0.61. So it was a good month overall, and this is a snapshot as of April 15th. Any questions on that? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Okay, we're moving along pretty quickly. Next on the agenda is our action items. First is to consider the updated operating budget for the current fiscal year.
I can go through that.
Okay.
So we passed a budget in December for fiscal year that started April 1, and that was based on the assumption that our funding would be flat from the Environmental Protection Fund at $2.475 million. It actually increased. It increased to $2.675, but remember, $50,000 of that is carved out to the city of Schenectady for Woodlawn. So it actually increased to $2.625. You can see that at the top, the comparison, the left column and the middle column. The actual increase was $104,000 because lease revenue is actually going down. It's going down because the Nature Conservancy signed a new lease, and one of the things that we were going to do is we were going to paint and put new carpeting upstairs. We had budgeted for that. And they asked if, instead of we paying for it, they would pay for it and reduce their their lease payments, and we agreed to that. And we would do that, well, we would certainly do that if we had a new tenant, but we were going to do it anyways. And we haven't painted or carpeted upstairs since they moved in 10 years ago. So that's why there's a slight reduction there. And that's just, it's 3 months' rent, and it's a concession of $42,000 and change for the painting and the carpet. And if it goes over that, they would pay. So the actual increase in revenue would be $104,000. The vast majority of that goes to, under contractual to, for habitat work for tree removal, stumping, and mowing. The balance of that, there's a small amount in payroll. That's there's a little more than $8,000 increase for seasonals. So if we can keep some seasonals on a little further, we would do that. There's some increased revenue for doing outreach events, displays, and some design fees. My favorite things that we've added for the Conservation Department are avian geolocators. So we bought 25 of these tiny little geolocators that you put on birds, and we're doing this in conjunction with a study with a researcher at Montague, which is an inland pitch pine scrub oak barrens in Massachusetts, looking at where our birds that come here to breed, where they winter, and following them. And it's kind of neat that we're taking a lot of our work on more of a global scale. And we're also putting transmitters on. I talked about this at the audit committee, and you know, people are like this. Harvey's like, this is neat. So we're also going to put transmitters on spadefoot toads, because there's so little known about spadefoot toads. Everybody assumes that they come out once a year to breed, and then they go back and bury themselves in the sand for the rest of the season. And we're finding out that that's not the case. So we're going to study them a little more. And there's also some extra funding for exhibits, and that's it. Yeah.
For Woodlawn, do you see that as a one-shot deal, or do you see that something that's going to continue for many years?
I am going to guess that the legislature is going to push to either have that carved out or have our legislation modified. And I was agreeable to it. I don't know if my agreement or not has any influence, but I was agreeable to it because we were going to get the increase. So we our PROP increased by $200,000, and I said if our PROP is going to increase by $200,000, $50,000 is reasonable to go to Woodlawn. So time will tell. One thing is if the funding's kind of coming out of our appropriation, we can help guide it in a way that's congruent with our own management plan. That's fine. Any other questions on the budget?
Okay. There'll be a motion to consider the operating budget. Second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you. Okay.
Next is the public authority compliance documentation.
Okay, so these are 3 resolutions in one. We have to approve these annually, and number 3 is actually new. You've seen the other numbers 1, 2, and 4 before. So these have to be approved by the board annually as part of being compliant with the public authorities law. And 2 of them are linked directly to our reporting that we do for Paris, the public authority reporting information system that Lisa has been working very hard at, along with me. It's really enjoyable. Don knows it too. So the first one is the assessment of internal controls that basically says that we were in compliance with our own internal controls, and that's a direct reflection of the audit. That's language that we pull right from the audit. The annual report on prompt payment policy. We have a prompt payment policy, and that requires that we basically pay our bills within 30 days if they're correct, and we always pay our bills within 30 days. And this basically certifies that we have done that. The Paris annual procurement.
Get the state to do it.
I don't know why authorities have to do that and the state does not, but that's not.
We pay interest on that.
Yeah, the state does pay interest. So the annual procurement report, I sent you the email last week. There's just the link there. I didn't include it in the packet because it's 48 pages. So the 48-page procurement report, it's on our website. We have to post it on our website, and it's every payment we've made over $5,000 in the fiscal year, which ended in March. And then there's the Paris annual report financial summary, which follows, is the last page of the packet, which basically is the financial summary for Paris that's also a reflection of our audit. So are there any questions? And if anybody would like a copy of this, I can get you I have the hard copy. I can get you a hard copy, but you can always look at it on the web. It's on the web for the next 2 years.
Okay. So can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All approved?
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to the presentation section of our agenda. First up is going to be Wojcicki and Company CPAs to cover the audit for this current fiscal year.
Yeah, we have Angela Colvin from Wojcicki. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Angela. Actually, this is previous fiscal year, I'm sorry.
Right. And your audit materials are here. Let's see.
Okay. We've audited the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2016. And if you go to the financial statements first, the beginning is management's discussion and analysis, and that is all management's writing. So we don't really do too much with that other than agree it to our numbers. And on page 6 is our independent auditor's report. Basically, it says that the Pine Bush was audited by Wojcicki and Company, and they have been found to be in compliance with generally accepted accounting standards. What is new this year is the accounting world itself is in a flux about defined benefit plans, because so many unions and states have an actual plan that will tell you how much you're going to get when you retire, which back in prior years, prior to 2008, was never a problem because investments were growing. But since 2008, a lot of pension plans have actually defaulted and not been able to pay what they actually planned. So in the financial world, we have new regulations on what to report, and in the government reporting, they are actually asking you to report a lot more also. Now, this year's statements are not comparative because we do not have those numbers for 2015. So you're going to look, when you see the statements, they're just going to be current year. You did have a change in net position, which is your net assets or retained earnings, of $600,000. So they were very healthy financial statements. And also, because of the new pronouncements for the pension plan, we've also got an extra 5 pages just based on the pension plan requirements. So all in all, it's a clean report. Oh, and something else I should note, the very last pages 25 and 26. These are supposed to be comparative for 10 years. We obviously only have the numbers for 2016, so all you got is 2016, but this will grow every year as we get more information in. The other thing is the report to the board. Now, this is our vehicle to report anything that we've mentioned to the board itself. Now, our significant audit findings is in Note A. We actually had to adopt GASB's 68 and 71, which refer to the pension plan. So that is the main thing that changed in your statements. And we are also required to report any estimates that may change. And management actually has a portfolio of investments, and depending on the market, they may or may not change considerably in the future. We encountered no difficulties in performing the audit. We had no corrected or uncorrected misstatements. We had no disagreements with management. We have requested that management sign a representation letter, and which happened when we went over with the audit committee. There was no consultation with other independent accountants, and in that case, if management decides they disagree with us on an accounting policy, they are free to obtain like a second opinion, but they have to make sure that we have contact with that other accounting firm so we can make sure they have all the information that's required. We had no other audit findings or issues. And then the RSI, which is required supplementary information, which is the management's discussion and analysis. It talks about we do not really do any auditing on that statement per se. We just make sure it ties to the financial statement itself. And this letter is solely for the board and management of the Pine Bush organization. I went through that fast, so does anybody have any questions?
Okay.
And you are not alone. I mean, every single, just to let you know, New York State just published all of the information on the website. All the state commissions and agencies are required to get their small part and input it into the financial statement. I guess we are very lucky to be in a New York State pension plan because they are 97% funded. Whereas if you look at some of the unions, they're like under 80. So that's why the government is really trying to make sure that everybody is adjusting their pensions so they can meet their liabilities when they come up. Okay, I did that little blurb after I asked her any questions.
That's good.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
No questions for Angela? Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
You're welcome.
Thanks to Lisa for all her hard work with this audit this year, too.
Yes, Lisa is great. Actually, working with the people here are absolutely great.
Okay, next we're going to be hearing from Mike Duran from Key Bank. He's going to report on the on our annual report of investments.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning, Mike.
Books here. Got extra copies over here. Good morning, everyone. And thanks for having me today. Normally I'm up here with a few other people as well, but sort of conflict of schedule, so I'm the lone representative from Key Private Bank. So I'll try to be as concise yet succinct as possible with some of the investment review, but I do want to point out, first off, that from an investment standpoint, you've got, from our standpoint, working as a fiduciary, you've got two major boxes that the committee and the group needs to check off. That would be a fiduciary box and then a compliance box. And then maybe a third one, that's the performance piece, right? But normally we all talk about performance as being the most important, but really in this case, kind of second or third, simply from a fiduciary standpoint. I do want to commend the Finance Committee and Lisa and Chris, kind of echo Angela's comments before, that they're great to work with, and they do a really good job of making sure that not only are we doing what we're supposed to be doing, but that the assets and the underlying investments of the group and the commission as a whole are doing what they need to be doing. So great to work with. Keep us on point and keep us on task, make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing. First step of that actually is having a succinct and up-to-date investment policy statement. So the group on an annual basis reviews investment guidelines that investment managers need to follow to make sure that we're doing what's in the best interest of the commission and the assets. That's been updated and reviewed, and to give you that first check, all the assets and all the investments in the underlying portfolios you have in front of you are within those guidelines, so we can check off that box. And from a fiduciary standpoint, the oversight and the communication that we have with the group is regular and ongoing. We met last week and sort of reviewed some of these things. So the two major boxes can be checked off. From a straight performance and investment standpoint, we've got 3 tabs within the deck. I won't go through each tab and each page and each data point, but the first tab is the endowment, and its grand total as of, these numbers are as of April 30th, simply because when we last met we didn't have the May numbers finalized yet. The total assets as of the end of April were roughly in the endowment about 2.9 million, and looking back, if anyone cares to flip to page 7, is the actual performance returns for the endowment, and that shows the year-to-date, 3-month, 1-year, 3-year, and I like to go back to the longest number, the 5-year number. So overall, over the last 5 years, on an annualized basis, so on average each year, the endowment has performed at a 4.28% annualized number. When we look at that number, it's not just the stock market or the bond market or cash. It's a mix, right? The portfolio is well diversified, going back to that first fiduciary kind of hat. You want to make sure that you've got a lot of different types of assets in a portfolio so that in any big years of swings up or down, the assets aren't moving in a huge manner. That would cause problems on the audit side for Angela Modesky and for Lisa. But we want to make sure that those are staying within range. So the portfolio is well diversified, and over the last, say, 2.5 years, one of the biggest areas of the market that's had a difficult time is international stocks and international holdings. Well, part of the portfolio is in international holdings, and so that's been somewhat of a drag on performance. But even going back, again, over the last 3 years, you can see the number is annualized at about 5%. Historically thinking about the stock market and equity markets, that seems small, seems lower. But again, we're using lots of different asset classes. So there's mid-cap and small-cap and international and emerging markets, as well as what we all think of as the stock market, like the S&P 500, the large cap piece. So just to give you an idea, for the endowment, those are the annualized numbers over the last 5 years. The second tab holds the reserves, and the reserves have a slightly different investment strategy. 100% fixed income, very, very short in duration or maturity, so a lot less risky. We're not investing things in there out past, say 5 to 7 years in the bond world. So the numbers there are a little different. That over the last 5 years is performing at a 2.79% annualized rate. And over the last few years, actually, the Finance Committee has, in a prudent manner, moved some assets out of the cash component in sort of deposit accounts. We all know where bank rates and where interest rates are. They're very, very low right now. So the reserves, because the group is in such a good financial position, those assets have moved from just being in cash or dollars into fixed income investments. So instead of making 0, they've been annualized at about 2.79% over the last 5 years. So from a prudent standpoint, you're actually putting the dollars to work a little bit better without taking on a lot of risk. So that's a slightly different investment strategy, 100% fixed income, whereas the endowment has an equity component. It's roughly about 50-50, equities versus fixed income. If anyone has any particular areas that they want me to cover or talk about, I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any. No?
Thanks, Mike.
Well, thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Okay. We were going to have a report on hydrology monitoring, which would include looking at the piezometers, the wells that we put in wetlands. But Dylan, Amanda, our field ecologist came to me on Monday and said, is there any way I can not do it and maybe do it at the next meeting because I'm buried with field work? And I said, yes. So she is supervising 3 seasonal conservation science interns, along with the St. Rose intern, which is doing conservation science, and the SUNY ESF intern doing the same thing. So they're doing Carner monitoring, they are doing bird work, they're doing various insect work, they're doing wetland work, they're doing lots of stuff. So I gave her a pass, and I thought you'd be okay with that. So we were going to have, I'll have Aaron come up and just talk quickly about and do an invitation to Carner Station before we go into an executive session.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Aaron.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick invite to everybody to come down and visit our Carner Station, which is our newest exploration station located in the Carner classroom. On your way into the meeting this morning, you may have noticed the railroad tracks on the floor. Just follow the tracks down into Carner Station. It's a temporary exhibit. It opened June 3rd. It'll run through December, and it interprets the Karner blue butterfly and its role here in the ecosystem and the many other species that share the ecosystem with the Karner blue. I also wanted to acknowledge all the work that went into creating this exhibit. First off with Blake. Blake coordinated the exhibit, so she kept us all on track and got us to our deadline of our grand opening on June 3rd. But also it really was a collaborative effort between communications and education. So also Sarah, Jackie, Grace, Vicki, Olivia, Paulina, Wendy, and Erica all worked on the exhibit as well. So I invite you all before you head out today to pop in and check it out. It's a great exhibit.
Thanks, Erin. And this was actually profiled. We had Channel 10 here live a week ago Monday with our own Blake Etchison as the star program. So we got a lot of good media coverage out of it. So we're going to go into executive session. I don't have anything to report. We just have to go in to approve minutes, and then we'll go out, and then you can head down and take a look at Karner Station. So we just need a motion to go out of regular session and go into executive. Okay. Second. All in favor? Okay.